Sophia Matthews, a woman once regarded as the epitome of a perfect marriage, now faces an unimaginable shock. The wife of millionaire Marcus Sullivan, she had always been proud of the perfect life she had built with her husband, a successful, glamorous, and charming man. They lived in the admiration of everyone, with a luxurious home and extravagant parties. But one fateful evening, everything changed forever. Sophia, with her gentle beauty and confident gaze, stepped into the hotel where her life would be turned upside down. She had no idea that behind the perfect facade of her family life, a dark secret was waiting for her. Invited to a special event hosted by Marcus, she never expected that this event would become a life-changing one. As Sophia entered the hotel grounds, the dim light from the crystal chandelier reflected off the shiny tiled floor. But all of that beauty could not mask the turmoil in her mind. She could not forget that moment. The moment she saw Marcus, her husband, sitting beside Harper Gray, her best friend. They were laughing and talking intimately, as if they had nothing to hide. The exchanged glances, the bright smiles, and the way Marcus touched Harper's hand made Sophia's heart shatter. Everything around her seemed to stop, leaving only that image, full of pain and shock. She stood frozen, unable to believe her eyes, unable to acknowledge the truth unfolding before her. Amidst the sparkling lights of the luxurious hotel, the image of Marcus and Harper felt like a punch to her face. She had once thought her life would forever be a fairy tale, where love and happiness always prevailed. But now, it was all reduced to rubble. Sophia saw in Marcus's eyes a coldness she had never noticed before. And in Harper's eyes, indifference, without a hint of guilt. A betrayal, not just from her husband, but from the best friend she had trusted for years. The pain spread through Sophia's body, making her unable to stand. She felt as though everything she had built, love, trust, and hope, was now collapsing beneath her feet. There were no words to describe the numbness in her heart. No way to soothe that hurt. She wanted to scream, curse, and awaken some form of justice she could believe in. But no, she could only stand still, staring ahead, where everything she had trusted had been betrayed. No one said anything. No one noticed the unbearable pain unfolding inside her. Sophia quietly left, without a word. It felt as if she was lost in a foreign world, where love and trust no longer had a place. She didn't know what to do, didn't know how to face her husband or her best friend. All she knew was that this betrayal had made her feel as though she was standing on the edge of a cliff, one step away from falling into an endless abyss. It was a moment, a fateful second, when everything Sophia had once believed in shattered like broken glass falling to the ground. The shock and pain overwhelmed her mind, as if she were living in a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. What she had witnessed, what she could not believe, would now become a deep wound in her heart, a wound she could never forget. Sophia Matthews and Marcus Sullivan were the epitome of a perfect couple that society admired. In the eyes of those around them, they were the ideal combination of grace and success. Sophia, a woman loved by everyone, was not only beautiful, but also talented, intelligent, and always commanded respect from those around her. She possessed an elegant, gentle beauty, but was also strong, making everyone who met her feel fond of her. With an open heart and sincere manners, Sophia was always respected by the community, always the first to volunteer to help others, especially the charities she participated in. Marcus, her husband, was a successful millionaire, known for his charming appearance and strong charisma. He was the ideal man that everyone aspired to be, not only for his wealth, but also for his exceptional talent and leadership skills. In the world of the wealthy, Marcus was seen as a symbol of success, a perfect man with a strong career and a lavish lifestyle. He could create any dream he wanted, from luxurious villas to extravagant vacations at expensive locations. But above all, Marcus was the only man in Sophia's heart, the one she completely trusted and loved. Their relationship was not only about success or fame, but also a deep, enduring love. serving as a living testament to the family happiness people dream of. Their marriage was a modern fairy tale, a perfect combination of understanding and sharing. Together, they had built a happy family, where every day was filled with laughter and romantic moments. Even though Marcus was busy with work and constant business trips, he always knew how to make time for Sophia, showing his love through every gesture and word. They were a couple that everyone envied, as if nothing could ever break the perfection of their relationship. But behind all of that perfection, there was one thing that Sophia never thought of, a truth that she could never have imagined even in her dreams. Betrayal. Sophia had never suspected anything about her husband. Marcus had always been a devoted and loving husband, taking care of her like a precious gem. He was the ideal partner, someone Sophia never thought could hurt her. They had it all: career, fame, and love. She believed nothing could ever break their bond, that their love would last forever. However, while Sophia found safety and happiness in Marcus's arms, one of her best friends did not keep her promises. Harper Gray, Sophia's longtime friend, whom she considered like a sister, was the one she placed her complete trust in. Harper had always been there for Sophia during the toughest times, the only one she could share all her secrets with without fear of judgment. They had grown up together, experienced so many joys and sorrows, and their friendship was built on a foundation of absolute trust. Sophia never doubted her relationship with Harper, because she always thought this friendship would never change, that it would always be a part of her life. Harper was not only a close friend, but also an important part of Sophia's life. She was always there to listen to Sophia's thoughts, always ready to stand by her when needed, and the first to support her decisions. Harper was a confident, successful woman in her own career, with a special charm, and was loved by everyone. In Sophia's eyes, Harper was not just a close friend, but also a sister who always stood by, protected, and cared for her. The relationship between Sophia and Harper had lasted for over 2 decades. They had shared countless moments, daily stories, joys, and sorrows. Sophia trusted Harper so much that she never considered the possibility that her best friend might betray her. To Sophia, this relationship was inviolable, like a vow that could never be broken. They were two kindred spirits, bonded through every moment of life. Sophia and Marcus might have been the model of an ideal couple, but in Sophia's heart, the perfection of their marriage was not just because of Marcus's success or her own beauty. It was about understanding, about sharing the small details of life. The long nights spent awake due to work, the short vacations they took for each other, the peaceful evenings by the fire. Those moments were what made their lives complete. Each day, Sophia felt as though she were living in a dream she never wanted to wake up from. She felt Marcus's love and knew that nothing could ever break this bond. In Sophia's heart, there was no doubt. She lived in complete safety, believing that everything could be overcome with love. Marcus was the only one she wanted by her side, and Harper was the only friend she trusted. They were the two most important people in her life, the ones Sophia felt she couldn't live without. But within Sophia's heart, just like in this life, nothing is forever. Love and friendship, no matter how strong, can still be tested and shattered. The days of hope, which seemed like they would last forever, were just temporary moments in a life full of surprises. The relationship between Sophia and Marcus, and between Sophia and Harper, were filled with love and trust. But they were also stories that could easily be shattered by elements that Sophia could never anticipate. After that fateful day, when Sophia Matthews witnessed the unimaginable scene, her husband, Marcus Sullivan, and her best friend, Harper Gray, together in a luxurious hotel, her life seemed to plunge into darkness. A wave of powerful emotions crashed over her, but that shock was just the beginning of a long, painful journey, as everything Sophia had once trusted began to collapse. The relationship between Sophia and Marcus had always been considered ideal, the model for anyone wishing for a happy family life. She was a beautiful, talented woman, loved by everyone in the community, while Marcus was a successful millionaire with a charming appearance and a solid career. They were the couple everyone admired. Yet now, with betrayal starting to become clear, Sophia could not understand why everything had changed so quickly. She had felt that everything was built on a solid foundation, a love that could not be broken. But small signs, changes she hadn't immediately noticed, gradually began to destroy everything. Marcus began to grow distant. He was no longer the warm, devoted husband that Sophia had loved for all these years. The loving gestures, the hugs, the gentle kisses, once simple moments in life, had now become unfamiliar. Marcus no longer gave her the tender glances, words of encouragement, or attention he once did. Many times Sophia felt that Marcus's words had grown cold, lacking sincerity. He was always in a rush, had no time for her, and even stopped sharing his thoughts with her. Their relationship, once full of romance, had turned into short conversations and blunt responses. Sophia tried to find reasons, but all the explanations Marcus gave were unsatisfactory. He frequently went on sudden business trips, and when he returned, he avoided her questions. The business trips, which had once been a regular part of Marcus's work, now seemed more vague than ever. She couldn't understand why he was often absent during important occasions, why he no longer made time for her as he used to. When she asked about the reasons, Marcus just casually said that his work was getting busier and that he couldn't step back. But his silence and indifference made Sophia even more suspicious. One day, while Sophia was cleaning their bedroom, she accidentally discovered a strange perfume scent in Marcus's room. It was a fragrance she had never smelled before. The sweet, alluring scent was completely different from the one Marcus usually wore. A sense of unease rose in her heart. The fragrance seemed to haunt her mind, making it impossible to shake off the feeling of confusion. Sophia tried to convince herself that it was just a coincidence, but the strange feeling lingered in her. She began to pay more attention to the details around her, and the more she noticed, the more strange events unfolded. Marcus now frequently went out in the evenings without prior notice, and his phone calls became abnormal. Every time she heard the phone ring, Marcus quickly answered and stepped out of the room. He was no longer like before, telling her about his conversations or the people he met. During business trips, he always returned home with a tired, rushed attitude, as if wanting to quickly escape Sophia's observation. The answers he gave when she asked about those trips were just vague reasons that couldn't convince her doubts. But what Sophia truly could not endure were Harper's actions. Her best friend, whom she had once trusted absolutely, now made her feel as though she were standing on the brink of betrayal. Harper still appeared often, but this time, her presence made Sophia feel uneasy. Harper and Marcus began showing overly familiar gestures that had never happened before. They laughed and spoke together, sharing private stories that Sophia couldn't know. Every time Harper visited, Sophia noticed that Marcus no longer looked indifferent, but instead gave special attention to her best friend. One evening, when all three were attending a party at home, Sophia accidentally witnessed a scene she couldn't forget. Both Harper and Marcus sat next to each other, exchanging private stories and looking at each other with flirtatious gazes. Sophia felt a lump in her throat, unable to understand why their intimacy had crossed the boundaries of friendship. The gentle touches, the sweet smiles, all of it made Sophia feel abandoned. She couldn't say a word, only stood still, watching them from afar, her heart tightening with pain. Although these actions weren't enough to prove anything, Sophia couldn't deny her feelings about the changing relationship between Marcus and Harper. Every time she saw them together, her heart ached. Sophia had once trusted Harper like a sister, but now, the closeness between Marcus and Harper seemed too much. It wasn't innocent actions, but rather overly obvious gestures, secretive looks that weren't hidden at all. In the days that followed, the confusion and suspicion grew stronger. Sophia couldn't help but think that something deeper was happening, a truth she couldn't face. She felt as though she were being pushed out of her own life, as if she were no longer the most important person in Marcus's heart. Everything she had once known about love and trust was now being threatened by the very people she loved most. One morning, when Marcus left for a sudden business trip, Sophia could no longer bear it. She decided to search his phone. Although she knew that this action could violate his privacy, her suspicions had grown so large that she felt there was no other choice. When she opened Marcus's phone, she found private messages, unclear calls from Harper. She couldn't breathe as she saw the sweet, affectionate messages exchanged between Marcus and Harper. Now, everything was undeniable. The betrayal by Marcus and Harper was proven through these messages, these calls, and the secret connections she had never known about. Sophia's heart shattered. She could not accept this truth. Both Marcus and Harper had betrayed her, her best friend and the husband she had loved and trusted for all these years. This pain could not be expressed in words, but she knew that everything in her life had changed forever. This truth was too cruel, too harsh to face, but Sophia had no choice but to accept it. Part 4. The first twist. Love between Sophia and Marcus shakes. With each passing day, the distance in the relationship between Sophia and Marcus became more and more apparent. The love between them, once a bright flame that had burned brightly for many years, was now quietly fading in a way that was both silent and painful. Everything was no longer the same. The feeling of absence, the coldness in Marcus's eyes, the strange silence whenever they were together. All of it made Sophia feel an overwhelming sense of unease. The relationship she had once been proud of, the one she had cherished and protected with all her heart, had now become a mystery she couldn't unravel. The affectionate gestures she had once received from Marcus were now just distant memories, like a beautiful dream she couldn't grasp. Since discovering the strange signs in Marcus's behavior, Sophia had felt a change that she couldn't put into words. Marcus was no longer the man who loved her, cared for her, or made time for her as he once did. The nights when he came home late without prior notice, the sudden absences during important occasions, all these only fueled an undeniable suspicion in Sophia's heart. Their conversations had become brief, sometimes only consisting of hollow responses, questions that Marcus barely cared to answer. Every time she tried to share her thoughts or feelings, Marcus would turn away, as if he no longer wanted to listen. Strangely, no matter how much she pressed or tried to pull him closer, he still kept his distance. Even the promises of care he had once given her had slowly turned into empty words. The feeling of being alone in her own home was not something Sophia had ever imagined when she married Marcus. But now, it was the reality she had to face. Her heart felt torn to pieces as she watched him become a stranger, seemingly no longer having any love or loyalty for her. And then, these signs didn't stop at the coldness in their communication. They began to manifest more clearly in the actions of Marcus and Harper. Sophia began to notice strange gestures, flirtatious looks that Harper gave Marcus whenever they met. She was familiar with their interactions from before, a friendship that she trusted and always respected. But now, she had to witness the changes in this relationship. Harper, her closest friend, was no longer just the one she shared everything with, but had become part of the distance between her and Marcus. Every time Harper visited, every story they shared, all of it made Sophia feel abandoned. She could not deny the growing intimacy between them. One day, after a crucial meeting, Sophia came home and accidentally caught Marcus and Harper talking in the living room. The two of them looked at each other with a strange gaze, as if they shared a deep understanding that only they could comprehend. The friendship, once built on respect, now seemed to be mixed with emotions that couldn't be explained. When Harper laughed, lightly patting Marcus on the shoulder, Sophia couldn't help but feel that something was wrong. Everything inside her seemed to shatter. Part of her wanted to believe that these were harmless actions of friends, but another part of her felt the betrayal clearer than ever. In the days that followed, Sophia tried to convince herself that her thoughts were just overactive imagination. She thought maybe she had been too sensitive, that everyone had the right to have private conversations without sharing them with others. But the unease still simmered inside her, like a small fire she couldn't extinguish. She began to pay more attention to the small details in their relationship. The times Marcus came home late without any explanation, the unclear phone calls from Harper, and the quick meetings he rushed off to without a clear reason. These were things she couldn't overlook. Then one morning, when Marcus was preparing for a sudden business trip, Sophia could no longer bear it. She decided to uncover the truth, even if it meant sacrificing everything. Although she knew that this might destroy their relationship, the doubt in her couldn't be extinguished. She decided to search Marcus's computer, an action she would never have done before. But now, when everything was in turmoil in her mind, she had no other choice. When she opened Marcus's computer, she couldn't believe what she saw. The messages, the emails between Marcus and Harper appeared on the screen, each word, each sentence, making Sophia feel as though she had been stabbed in the heart. The intimate conversations, the sweet words Marcus had exchanged with Harper, all of them were clear signs of betrayal. They shared plans, secret meetings, and whispered words that Sophia had never heard from Marcus. These messages weren't just signs of distance in their marriage. They were vivid proof of the betrayal Sophia couldn't have imagined. It felt as though the ground beneath her feet had completely collapsed. She couldn't stop, couldn't look away from the messages. The memories, the promises of Marcus now seemed like blatant lies. Her heart ached so much she could hardly breathe. Her eyes blurred with tears that wouldn't stop falling. Everything she had once believed was right, was love, now suddenly turned into a nightmare. She couldn't believe her eyes, couldn't accept the truth. Everything she had built, everything she had sacrificed and invested in this love, was now being ruthlessly trampled on. Sophia sat down, her mind spinning, unable to focus on anything. She felt as though she was living in a completely different world, where everything she had trusted before had turned into illusions. The love she had for Marcus had now become a joke, a lie she could not accept. Everything had changed, and she knew that once the truth had been exposed, nothing could ever go back to the way it was. This betrayal was not only Marcus's betrayal, but also Harper's, the best friend she had once trusted. She didn't know what to do, only knew to sit there in the darkness of her pain, unable to move, unable to escape. Sophia's heart shattered into pieces as she faced a truth she could no longer deny. The betrayal of Marcus and Harper not only caused her pain, but also made her feel a deep emptiness in their relationship. The marriage she had once loved so deeply was now nothing but lies and Marcus's coldness. With each passing day, Sophia increasingly realized that not only had love been lost, but also the respect and care that had once existed between them had faded over time. The feeling of betrayal surged within her like a powerful wave, sweeping everything away. She could not believe that the man she had entrusted her life to could so easily turn his back on her, on the memories and sweet moments they had built together. She couldn't understand why Marcus would treat her this way, when she had always been the woman who loved him completely, always stood by him through every high and low. The love between them was no longer the happy and peaceful days it once was. Instead, it had become long days of silence and confusion. Marcus no longer gave her the tender looks, nor did he ask about her or care for her like before. Every time they met, Sophia felt the strangeness in the way he looked at her, as if they were no longer husband and wife, but just two strangers living under one roof. She didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say to make Marcus come back, to make the love they once shared not fade completely. All she could do was watch him from afar, quietly witnessing him becoming a stranger in her own life. Then, Marcus's actions became even more evident. The signs of distance and lack of care grew stronger. The unexpected business trips, the phone calls whose contents she couldn't know, the meetings he never explained clearly. Marcus began avoiding her even more, and even on nights when he was home, he no longer talked or shared with her like before. Instead, he would sit quietly, engrossed in his phone or computer, as if he didn't want to be bothered with any conversations. She sensed not only the coldness in his eyes, but also an invisible distance growing between them, a gap that couldn't be filled by any words. The doubts in Sophia's heart kept increasing. She began to feel that the business trips Marcus often went on were not just about work. One day, while accidentally browsing through Marcus's email, she discovered a rather unusual work schedule. Not only were there sudden trips, but even the locations Marcus was visiting became suspicious. She couldn't understand why he would change his work schedule so quickly and mysteriously, as if there was something he didn't want her to know. The email she found only confirmed the doubt she had, that Marcus and Harper had some kind of relationship she had no idea about. Sophia felt as though she was lost in her own life. She couldn't accept that the love she had for Marcus was being betrayed so terribly. The unanswered questions haunted her mind. Why was he doing this? Why wouldn't he tell her? Why hide the trips, the calls, and the meetings? Each time she saw these signs, each time she discovered something, her heart hurt even more. She couldn't bear the truth that Marcus, the one she had trusted and loved, could betray her in this way. One evening, when Marcus went on another business trip without any prior notice, Sophia decided to do something she never thought she would have to do. She couldn't live with this doubt anymore. She needed to know the truth, even if it meant facing pain and loss. She decided to follow Marcus, a decision she never wanted to make, but the pain in her heart could no longer be contained. She secretly followed Marcus as he left the house. Her heart raced. She couldn't believe she was doing this, but she had no other choice. She had to know, had to find the truth, even if it meant sacrificing everything. Sophia followed Marcus for a long time, and eventually, she witnessed a scene she could never have expected. Marcus didn't go to a business meeting as he had said, but instead, he drove to a villa on the outskirts of the city. She couldn't believe her eyes when she saw Harper standing in front of the villa, waiting for Marcus. They met, talked joyfully, intimately, and when Marcus hugged Harper, Sophia felt as if a knife had been plunged into her heart. All the doubts, all the unease she had felt all this time were now confirmed. Marcus wasn't just deceiving her, but he and Harper were building a world of their own, a world where she had no place. The feeling of betrayal inside Sophia was beyond words. She stood there, silently watching, unable to say a word. Her heart felt shattered, as if each piece of it was falling to the ground and couldn't be put back together. The promises, the memories of love between her and Marcus were now just empty lies. She couldn't believe what she had witnessed, but the truth was undeniable. Everything she thought was right, everything she thought was love, had now turned into a painful lie. She felt as though everything in her life had collapsed. The betrayal of Marcus and Harper was not just a betrayal of love, but it was a breaking of trust, of the values Sophia had held on to for so many years. She didn't know what to do, didn't know how to face her life anymore. She had once loved Marcus with all her heart, but now she was left with a broken heart, a heart that didn't know where to go. The sweet memories of love had now become deep wounds that could never be healed. After days of living in pain and betrayal, Sophia felt a deep emptiness in her heart, as if her life had been completely turned upside down. She had loved Marcus, had given him all her heart and affection, had sacrificed so much to build a happy family, a lasting love. But now, everything she had trusted had collapsed. Not only had she been betrayed by the husband she once loved, but her best friend, Harper, had also shattered the friendship they had built over the years. The long days of living in pain and confusion did nothing to ease the hurt within her, but instead, it fueled an uncontrollable anger. Sophia had endured too much suffering to accept being seen as a victim in this story. She couldn't let herself continue living in the darkness of betrayal. She couldn't let Marcus and Harper continue living a life full of lies and deceit without facing consequences. The feeling of being deceived, being used, drove her to do something. Not only to get revenge on them, but also to regain control of her own life. In every moment of confusion, when the memories of the conversations, the promises from Marcus and Harper flashed in her mind, she realized one thing. If she didn't act, she would never be able to live fully again. She couldn't allow herself to be weak, living in the shadows of betrayal. Sophia began to plan, a plan she would never have thought of before. She knew that this revenge wasn't just for Marcus and Harper, but also for herself. She wouldn't allow them to control her life anymore. She would no longer be the submissive wife, no longer the friend easily deceived. She would take back what she had lost, not by running away, but by facing the truth directly and making them pay. Sophia not only wanted to expose the lies they had built, but also wanted to reveal everything in front of everyone. In the following weeks, Sophia began to build her revenge plan. She carefully studied Marcus and Harper's every move, the meetings they tried to hide, the secret dates they had. She wasn't in a hurry, but took each step slowly, like a strategist calculating each move. She knew that this revenge couldn't be just a spur-of-the-moment action, but needed to be a decisive blow, a strike that would force both Marcus and Harper to face the truth they had tried to conceal. Sophia decided to use a large charity event that both Marcus and Harper were attending to expose everything. This would be the moment when neither of them could escape, neither could explain. And more importantly, this would be her chance to regain control and show everyone that she was no longer the weak woman she once was. The charity event Sophia chose was a major event in the city, where influential and powerful people would gather. It was the place where everyone would have to pay attention, and Sophia knew that this would be the perfect opportunity to expose everything Marcus and Harper had done behind her back. She began preparing for this plan, meticulously organizing every detail. Every move she made was calculated, from inviting the right people to the event to revealing the evidence she had gathered. Sophia not only wanted to expose Marcus and Harper's betrayal, but she also wanted them to feel the shame, the pain she had endured all this time. She knew that nothing could return to her what she had lost, but at least she could make them face the truth and make them pay for what they had caused. The day of the charity event arrived, and the atmosphere that evening was truly special. The elegant dresses, the classy tuxedos, the sparkling lights reflecting off the glass walls. Everything created a mysterious and captivating atmosphere. People gathered, chatting and laughing, but in Sophia's heart, a much bigger battle was taking place. She stood in the corner of the room, her sharp eyes watching Marcus and Harper. The two were chatting happily, laughing, unaware that they were being watched. Sophia wasn't in a rush, showing no signs of tension. She knew that her moment had come. As the event was about to begin, Sophia stood up and walked into the crowd. She could feel every eye turning toward her, but she wasn't afraid. She felt stronger than ever, and this gave her an unusual confidence with each step she took. When she stood in front of everyone, she smiled, but in her heart, a fire of hatred and determination burned. She began to speak, her voice not too loud, but clear enough for everyone to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here today not just to attend a charity event, but to expose the secrets I have kept hidden all this time. I want you to know about the betrayal I have endured, the deceit I have lived with for so long. The man I loved, Marcus Sullivan, along with my best friend Harper Gray, have both betrayed me. People began to murmur, their eyes full of surprise and confusion, looking at Sophia. But she didn't stop. She continued to talk about Marcus's secret business trips, the unclear calls, and the intimate messages between him and Harper that she had discovered. The evidence she had collected was now laid bare before everyone. Each word she spoke was like a punch to Marcus and Harper's hearts. They stood frozen, their faces pale, unable to believe that everything had been exposed so openly. No more lies, no more vague explanations. Everything had been revealed. Marcus and Harper, the ones she had trusted, now only had red faces full of shame, unable to face the truth. She saw panic in Marcus's eyes, helplessness. He couldn't understand why everything was being laid bare like this. She saw Harper, her face pale, standing silently, unable to look anyone in the eye, as though she wanted to hide beneath the floor. But Sophia didn't feel any pity. She was too tired of the lies, too disgusted by living in betrayal. Today, she had stood up, had taken back control of her life. As people began to talk amongst themselves, Sophia turned and walked away, not caring about Marcus and Harper's embarrassment. She had done what she needed to do. No more silence, no more submission. She had not only gotten revenge, but had also reclaimed her strength. As she walked out of the hall, she knew that from now on, everything would be different. She was no longer the weak woman. She was a strong, independent woman who would never let anyone control her life again. Sophia's nightmare did not end after she exposed Marcus and Harper's betrayal at the charity event. In the days that followed, she felt like she was living in a foggy space where the memories of love, family, and trust slowly faded into painful stories. She had faced the truth, sought revenge, and shattered the nightmares created by Marcus and Harper. However, this truth did not bring her the relief she had hoped for. With each passing day, the broken pieces of her past continued to haunt her, like wounds that couldn't heal. She couldn't find peace in her soul, couldn't find joy in the everyday moments. Then, one morning, when everything seemed to have settled down, disaster struck again. Marcus died in a sudden accident. A rushed message from a friend announcing Marcus's death made Sophia's heart tremble. She couldn't believe her ears. Marcus, the husband she had once loved deeply, the man she had given her whole heart to, was now gone. All that was left were pain, emptiness, and unanswered questions. This loss sent Sophia into an emotional storm with no escape. But deep within her, no pain could knock her down anymore. When she arrived at Marcus's house, where they had lived for all those years, everything seemed unclear in her eyes. The darkness of his passing enveloped the vast space, and Sophia felt like she was standing in a world where everything had been lost. Marcus was no longer there. No more conversations about the future. No more promises. All that remained was a cold house and memories that couldn't be erased. But in that dark moment, something unexpected happened. She found Marcus's will, and in the will, there were words she never thought she would read. "I'm sorry, Sophia. I have betrayed you. I do not deserve your love." Those words, Marcus's apologies, struck her heart like a heavy blow. Not because of his remorse or regret, but because these were the last words he left her. The betrayal that had been hidden for all these months was now acknowledged just before his departure. These apologies didn't bring her comfort. They only deepened the wound in her heart. She didn't know what to do with these words, but she realized that whether Marcus regretted it or not, he could never come back to fix everything. Sophia sat there, staring at the will, feeling as though everything she had built had been ruthlessly stripped away. It wasn't just her life, but also her dreams, her hopes, all of which had slipped through her fingers. She felt as if she had been betrayed even though Marcus was no longer here. What he had left her was not change, but confirmation of everything she had been through. Yet, in that moment, a strong decision began to form in her mind. She would no longer let Marcus's regret overpower her. She would not let the past, no matter how painful, determine her future. Sophia understood that despite the pain, despite the hurt, she couldn't let herself live forever in this sorrow. She couldn't live a life filled with hatred and suffering. Although the wounds in her heart had not healed, she knew she had to move on. Not for Marcus, not for Harper, but for herself. Sophia decided that she would not let her life be drowned in darkness. She would use everything she had, from what Marcus left behind in his legacy, to create an organization to support women betrayed like she was. She wanted to turn her pain into strength, to help women who stood in the shadows, who were deceived and hurt by toxic relationships. She wanted them to know they were not alone, that there was a place where they could find support, share their stories, and have a chance to rise after being crushed. Over the following months, Sophia began her work. She used the assets Marcus had left, the funds from his inheritance, to build her own organization. Every step she took was filled with resilience and determination. She didn't just want to do this for herself, but also for the women who were struggling with the pain and loss she had once experienced. She knew that if this organization could help at least one woman escape the shadows, then all her efforts would be worth it. Sophia's organization gradually became a safe haven for women in need of support. She and her team ran workshops, held sharing sessions, and helped women who were looking for ways to regain control of their lives. Sophia also began giving public talks about betrayal in marriage, about how toxic relationships could affect a person's life. She wanted to inspire other women, to let them know they could stand up, they could fight, and they could take back their lives. Sophia didn't just build an organization, she rebuilt herself. She was no longer the weak woman Marcus had seen. She was a strong, independent woman who would never let the past overwhelm her. She had let go of the suffering, let go of the hatred, to build a new future, a future she could be proud of. On quiet evenings, when she looked back on her journey, she realized that even though Marcus was no longer by her side, even though the betrayal had taken away many valuable things, she could still find happiness and peace within herself. One evening, when her organization had become well known and had helped many women, Sophia stood on stage, looking out at the crowd, and smiled. She realized that revenge was not the release, it was finding herself. She had won, not because she made Marcus and Harper feel ashamed, but because she had chosen to live with strength and purpose. And in that moment, Sophia knew she had found the peace she had always been seeking. With each passing day, Sophia gradually found peace in her life. The gloomy days, the long sleepless nights, the relentless waves of pain and despair slowly faded away, making way for a new light. She was no longer the woman resigned to living in the shadows of betrayal and hurt. After everything she had been through, Sophia decided she would no longer be the prisoner of her past. She would not allow the wounds in her soul to dictate her future. It was a decision she had struggled with for so long, but once made, it burned like a fierce fire, illuminating every corner of her life. She began to change, not for anyone else, but for herself. Sophia spent more time focusing on herself, healing the emotional wounds she had carried. She was no longer the tired and abandoned woman, but a strong, confident woman, ready to embrace a new future. She began to focus on the most important things in life: mental and physical health, joy in the simple moments, and reconnecting with herself. On peaceful mornings, when she woke up and saw the sunlight streaming through the window, Sophia felt the change within herself. Each deep breath she took made her feel lighter, as if she had shed a heavy burden that had been weighing on her for so long. Not stopping at healing herself, Sophia was also determined to help other women who were facing situations similar to hers. She knew she wasn't alone, and that many women around the world were enduring toxic relationships, betrayals, and suffering just like she had. She wanted to do something to change the lives of these women, to let them know they weren't facing these challenges alone, and that they could regain their strength, just as she had. Sophia began to join charity organizations, movements helping women, and she took the time to listen to their stories, share her own emotions, and encourage them to keep fighting. Along with the change in her personal life, Sophia gradually found her voice in society. She began speaking out about issues she had never dared to address before, issues that had often been overlooked or hidden in the shadows: betrayal in love, harm in toxic relationships, and the need to help women who were suffering. She used her own stories, but not to torment herself or live in the past. She used them as a tool to inspire others, to speak the truth, and to create positive change in society. Each speech, each sharing session was a step forward in her journey to help other women find their strength. With unwavering vision and determination, Sophia founded her own organization, Rebirth. This organization aimed to support women who had been betrayed, those living in toxic relationships and emotional wounds. Rebirth was not just a charity, but a movement, a new beginning for women wanting to take back control of their lives. Sophia used all the experience and resources she had to help the women in need, to let them know they were not alone in this journey. She organized psychological support programs, workshops on personal freedom and how to escape toxic relationships, and meetups where women could share their stories. Sophia felt this transformation not only in her own life, but also in the women she had helped. The women coming to Rebirth were no longer the ghosts of themselves, but strong, confident, and hopeful individuals. She saw the light in their eyes, the determination in their every step, and she knew that her work was bringing about positive changes. Women who had once been imprisoned by pain had now regained their freedom, reclaimed their power. She saw them rise, stronger than ever, and knew that she had played a part in rebuilding their lives. Every evening, when Sophia sat alone in the Rebirth office, she no longer felt lonely. She felt joy in the work she was doing, happiness when seeing small but meaningful changes in the lives of the women she was helping. She knew that although life had taken many things from her, from those losses, she had built a new life. She had not only saved herself, but had also helped save many others. And that was something wonderful, something she had never dared to dream of before. Sophia's organization grew, and she began to gain recognition from the community. The success stories of women who had regained their lives thanks to Rebirth were the greatest motivation for her to continue this work. Sophia felt that her life had entered a new chapter. While the past would always be a part of her, she had not let it determine her life. She had learned to be strong, independent, and most importantly, she had found herself again. One evening, when Rebirth held a major event to celebrate its journey, Sophia stood on stage, looking out at the crowd of smiling, hopeful faces. She was no longer the weak, hurt woman, but a strong, confident woman with an open heart. She had found peace within herself, and now she wanted to share that peace with everyone she met. She knew that her life was not just a story of betrayal, but a story of rebirth, of the strength to overcome suffering and rebuild a new future. And in that moment, Sophia realized that every step she took, every decision she made, was not just about revenge or proving something, but about creating a better world for herself and for the women around her. She didn't need others' sympathy, but she had learned to love herself, to love what she had overcome, and to love what she was building. Sophia's life was no longer filled with the long days submerged in the shadows of betrayal, loss, and the pain she had endured. As time passed, the wounds in her heart no longer throbbed like they once did. The days of confusion and uncertainty gradually gave way to a strong feeling, a confidence that Sophia had never anticipated. She had found strength in her own pain. The silent tears, the sleepless nights, all became pieces of the rebirth journey she had to go through. Pain had become a part of her, but it was not the dominant part. Instead, it had taught her a valuable lesson in resilience and the ability to rise after being knocked down. No one could understand the struggle that Sophia had been through except herself. To let go of negative emotions and turn them into motivation to do good for herself and for others was a battle that only those who have faced deep suffering could truly understand. Her heart, once deeply wounded, was now stronger than ever. She not only accepted her past, but also learned to turn it into a resource, an energy to rise, to help other women who were going through similar circumstances. It was not forgiveness for those who had hurt her, but forgiveness for herself, so that she no longer had to live in hatred and pain, but to live with strength and determination. Sophia had not only found herself, but also found faith in life, in her own rebirth. She was no longer the weak, vulnerable woman from the past, but a strong, independent woman capable of changing the world around her. She knew that strength did not come from defeating others, but from defeating herself, from not allowing pain to dominate her life, from knowing how to rise up even after falling countless times. And that was what made Sophia a woman who could not be underestimated. She had overcome the challenges life threw at her, and now she could proudly stand on her own 2 feet. No matter how painful the past was, Sophia understood that these were the lessons life had given her. She couldn't change what had happened, but she could change how she viewed it. Every wound in her heart was not a sign of weakness, but signs of maturity. The memories of Marcus, of Harper, were no longer painful when she thought of them, but memories she could view calmly, accept, and turn into motivation for herself. Because Sophia had realized that true strength did not come from winning victories, but from the ability to rise after falling, from continuing to live, continuing to love, and continuing to fight for what she believed in. One day, when Sophia's rebirth organization held a major charity event, she stood on stage, looking out at the crowd who were attentively watching. The lights from the spotlights illuminated her face, creating a powerful and confident image. Sophia was no longer the weak, fearful woman in the shadows of betrayal and hurt. She had found her own strength, and now she stood firmly on the stage, with all the confidence and power she had built from the wounds of the past. The lights shining on her face were not just lights of success, but lights of rebirth. She had not let her past determine her destiny, but had created a new path, a path she could proudly walk on. Each step she took was a step filled with pride, not only because of what she had achieved, but also because of what she had overcome. She understood that life wasn't always easy, but it was those difficult challenges that had helped her become the person she was today. And that was part of the rebirth she had found. As Sophia looked down at the crowd, she saw familiar faces, those whom she had helped, those she had inspired. They looked at her with admiration and gratitude, and Sophia knew she had done the right thing. She had not only changed her own life, but had changed the lives of others. The women she had helped no longer had to live in the darkness of betrayal and hurt. They had found the light. They had found freedom, and they had learned to love themselves. And Sophia, who had once been hurt and lost, had now become the one to inspire them, the one they could look up to and learn from. She did not need praise or recognition from others. For Sophia, the most important thing was the change within herself and in the women she helped. She had turned pain into strength, and her rebirth had become a tremendous source of inspiration for other women. Nothing could stop her. Nothing could bring her down anymore. Sophia had found the true value of rebirth, and it was not just the rebirth of one woman, but the rebirth of a whole community. She was no longer just a victim, but the one creating change, the one who could turn every challenge into an opportunity, and the one who could inspire others to rise up in life. As the lights shone on her face, Sophia knew her journey was not ending here. She would continue to walk forward, continue to fight for what she believed in, and continue to help women in need. And no matter what challenges life brought, Sophia would always stand strong with the light in her eyes and a heart full of strength.